Welcome back. Great to have your company. Well, believe it or not, November the 21st is National Ag Day. That's National Agricultural Day. Now, it's a day when we celebrate the role our primary industries play in our day-to-day life. But not just here at home. As far as feeding us, they help feed millions of people around the world. That's what Ag Day is all about, and that's what our primary industries sector is about. Remember, millions and millions of dollars worth of exports are made every year out of South Australia, and we're really well known for that, and something we should be very proud of. Now, it covers all the horticultural industries as well as the fishing industry. So we've got a range of people here today to discuss what Ag Day is all about and what the primary industries section of South Australia is all about. First off, we'll start with Purcell's Executive Director, Alison Lloyd-Wright, who joins us now. Hi, Alison.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're in charge of a pretty big sector of this little country of ours.
It's true. It's a very important sector. It employs 1 in 5 people in South Australia.
Is it that many? 1 in 5?
That many across all kinds of... That's across everything from primary producers to manufacturing, wholesale, retail and food services.
And that's something that I think a lot of people don't really think about, particularly city-based people. We get lulled into this false sense of understanding that the primary industry is basically about farmers, growers and sheep farmers and cattle farmers. It's a little bit wider than that, isn't it?
It's much wider than that, and it's a really important part of how we're all fed and clothed, frankly. So all the fibre that's produced in the agriculture industry is what you end up wearing as well. So we think Agriculture Day is a really terrific opportunity for us to just appreciate the contribution that primary producers are making to our daily lives.
What's it worth? Can we put a figure on it?
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll be releasing the latest scorecard data, which will detail the specifics about what it's worth to the South Australian
give us a hint.
economy.
Come on, give us a drop.
Well, I can tell you that last year the scorecard showed that the gross food and wine value produced in South Australia was $18.6 billion.
Billion. 18.6 billion.
Yes, it's a really significant part of our economy.
And we can expect that to go up tomorrow? Okay. I just got the look, listeners. I just got the look. But I think we can take from that it might go up. That is a big slice of this state's economy, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge part of the economy. It's our largest export sector for South Australia, and that's why it's a key part of the South Australian government's priorities.
And we can only keep on growing, can't we? We can't rest on our laurels. We have to keep on striving to broaden the market, produce quality gear that's in demand, both locally and internationally.
And around the world, you're absolutely right. So, we're really committed. Government is really committed in the industry in working together on capitalising our existing opportunities, as well as identifying ways to increase our market share and profitability, all of which goes to creating increased value for our products at home and abroad.
Now, you've just come back from Chile, I believe.
Oh, sorry, no, that wasn't me that went to Chile, unfortunately.
You didn't go to Chile, okay. All right, well, I'll retract that question. But what sort of countries are we exporting to? Yeah,
so our top 5 export markets for agriculture, food and wine are USA, China, India, Indonesia and Japan. And
now, USA is number 1, isn't it?
Yes, and between them, they total almost 50% of South Australia's food and wine export value.
Yeah, which again is pretty significant. I find it interesting that America is still number 1 because we keep on hearing about China, but the States is still, I don't know whether you've got the percentages there, but they're still fairly a fair way ahead of China.
Yeah, but, we're interested in growing our market share across all kinds of markets across the world. And, China is definitely an emerging market.
Absolutely.
With lots of great opportunity to be capitalised on.
Now, of course, when we're talking about the rural sector, we're not just talking about land-based farming. We can talk about the bluefin tuna industry and the other fish industries. And joining us is Brian Jeffries, a man you'll recognise as being the boss of the Australian Southern Bluefin Tuna Industry Association. How are you, Brian?
Very good.
Good.
It's been a good year.
You caught a big one lately? Got any big ones lately?
Not as big as we'd like, but it's volume, it's economies of scale and quality, which really count.
Yeah. So let's put the seafood industry in context of the primary industries. What's it worth, the seafood industry?
It's, in exports, worth about $1 billion, and most of it's exported. There's a fair bit consumed in South Australia, but it tends to be fin fish like snapper and whiting and species like that. But the large majority, abalone, bluefin tuna, rock lobster is exported.
$1 billion is a big slice.
It's a big slice of regional South Australia, and the important things about these industries, they're sustainable, they're high value added, and that's really the kind of industries the state wants to develop.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when the tuna industry began, how long has that been alive and well in South Australia?
Started in the 50s, pretty low technology stuff. Now it's high technology, and that's often misunderstood. The agriculture and seafood sector are really high value added, high productivity, sustainable industries, and that those particular attributes that they have will sustain it into the next century and the century after that.
But the tuna farming industry really only started to grow, was it late 70s, 80s?
Early 90s.
Early 90s, was it?
The global technology was invented in Port Lincoln. And,
that's right, yeah.
And on the bed of receiverships. There's nothing focuses the mind like receiverships in improvement. And but it's developed ever since. It's been exported, the technology, unfortunately, but we're now a strong global competitor in that market.
But I bring that up because in the 90s it was a very controversial area, wasn't it? Where there was lots of stoushes going on about whether we should be into this sustainable, whether it is sustainable, etc., etc. Look what it's turned into.
Oh, correct. And we were partly contributed to that controversy. We were cowboys. No one had done tuna farming before. We were wild fishermen, and animal husbandry industries. That's a hard mentality culture to get your head around, and we weren't that good, but we're good now.
Yeah, so you can stand back now and say, I told you.
We're very careful.
We made a go. We made a go.
Just focus on continuous improvement, and the agriculture sector has been a big model for us. The performance over a long period in productivity growth has been remarkable. How to sustain that, continue it into the next century is really the challenge.
Well, is your industry one that will grow more, or have we found the niche in our market and that's what we'll just concentrate on, or continue to grow?
No, we're part of the China-Korea growth story, and we're very confident, even though they've never really taken to raw fish and premium tunas. The Chinese are getting a taste of it, and, the sky's the limit. But you've got to only utilise a sustainable resource, and that's exactly what we're doing in sustainable ecosystem conditions around Port Lincoln.
So what's your biggest market at the moment then?
Japan remains the biggest market, about 80%, but China we exported more than we've ever exported this year. And these are a very strong willed group of people, as you might imagine, mostly first-generation immigrants, and they'll do it. It's a matter of how and when.
And the existing market, Japan, still paying a premium for first-class goods.
Oh, absolutely. People underrate the strength of the Japanese economy, and I know fruit and a lot of other industries are now booming up there, or exports from Australia, simply because the Japanese economy looks like it's now on a sustainable growth path. And people shouldn't give that market in, and the yen is very strong. And that helps. It's
been the sleeper there for quite some time now. That's starting to sort of rear its head again, isn't it?
Oh, I think we took a lot of things for granted.
Yeah,
I think we got sloppy and lazy in marketing, and now we've very focused on building still the Japanese market, but expanding in China and Korea.
Can you share some of the fascinating parts of the tuna industry? How long, for example, from when you harvest a tuna, take it out of the cage, before it's actually on a plate in Japan?
We now export about 90% what we call super low temperature, which is minus 50 Celsius. That product then lasts for about 18 months, 2 years in cold store. That's by far the most cost-effective and profitable way to export. But our fresh product, it's about 10% of the product. It's only about 2 days. But you've got to be in the business of technological improvement all the time to maintain freshness, maintain colour. You have to be careful about the traceability of the product. People are now in Japan obviously trying to copy it as they are with wine and other Australian products. It's just a never... We are facing now almost the problems of prosperity. You can't complain anymore. You just got to keep on building, because there's a strong expectation in the workforce and in Port Lincoln that we will absolutely do that. It's underrated to some extent that people in the bush have put their money back into the bush towns. That's the most underrated. For example, Port Lincoln has the second largest baby food manufacturer in Australia, simply built on tuna money. These people have done service to the bush, which people just don't appreciate, but, and we don't broadcast. that much. It's simply that's an under broadcast and a lack of understanding of that belt. And land farmers have done exactly the same in many areas.
I think you're absolutely 100% right there. As someone who was born and bred in the regional town, Alison, that is a problem, isn't it? As far as publicising and blowing your own trumpet as far as the region's concerned.
Yeah, it's really important that we are telling the message about how prosperous and how much investment there is in South Australia's regions. I'm the Executive Director of Regions SA, so arguably I have the best job in the entire South Australian government because I get to spend all my time going out to Country SA, meeting with people who are really leading the way in terms of innovation and across a lot of different industries, really striking a path for the future of regional South Australia.
We're talking about National Ag Day, which is coming up on the 21st of November. So we're basically using this opportunity to give you a bit of a preview about the importance of our regional industries. Give us a call if you want to comment or you've got a question. 8223 0000. 8 minutes away from 2 o'clock. Hope you're having a very pleasant afternoon. We're talking about National Ag Day, which is coming up on November the 21st. First, it's a day where we celebrate the role of primary industries in our state economy, and it's a very, very important role, as we've heard. We're talking to Alison Lloyd-Wright, who's with PIRSA. We've also got Brian Jeffries from the Australian Southern Bluefin Tuna Industry Association with us, and also Ben Haslett joins us now. He's a Riverland-based horticultural grower. What do you grow, Ben?
We grow a range of crops, so citrus, almonds, wine grapes and stone fruit. So we dabble a bit of winemaking as well and pack fruit for export markets. So we like to really be across the full value chain so we can see what the markets are doing.
Very much so. Is the strategy there, one will nurse you through the bad times of another?
It can work out like that, for sure, because one thing's for sure in farming, not everything's good at the same time. So I guess it's a little bit of risk management there. But also we find across those crops and commodity types, there's a lot of things in common. And often industries don't talk amongst themselves, so it's quite nice to be able to see across them and use innovations from one in another.
Now, as well as being a grower, you won the Nuffield Scholarship, which meant you got to go on a pretty important trade mission around the world, finding some facts about your industry. So
Nuffield scholarships have been around for quite a long time. They've been a bit of the in the agricultural area for a long time. Australia's been very successful at putting forward Nuffield scholars. There's about 25 of them a year in Australia now, and so I was a scholar in 2015. And it's a great opportunity for people in the agricultural sector to make sure that they can broaden their horizons and look at the latest technology around the world, and also understand political and production systems worldwide. So there's a couple of different components, and we're really lucky. We travel on a group study exchange for a couple of months with a group of 7 or 8 other people, up to 10, and then you have some private study. You have to complete a report about your travel. So it's a really, really good thing for agriculture in Australia.
So what did you find? Where is South Australia sitting in the world environment then?
Yeah, South Australia, obviously it leads the world in some areas. In other areas, there's always something to learn. And I guess that's the thing that, and what I like to talk about in agriculture is we don't promote ourselves very well. It's a really high-tech area. We've got to let people understand if you're an economist, there's a job for you in agriculture. If you're someone that's a plant physiologist, there's a job for you in agriculture. If you're into law, there's a job for you in agriculture. So there's this really wide range of disciplines that we require in ag. And a lot of that for Australia to remain competitive, for South Australia to be competitive, has to be cutting edge. Because we don't compete on cheap labour or cheap inputs. We have to make sure we compete on great optimisation.
That brings up a really interesting point, doesn't it? And perhaps we can come back to you, Alison, on that. We're talking about employment. This is an opportunity for us to actually push the message that there is a whole range of employment opportunities in this sector. Do you think there's great enough recognition out there that, in our schools and universities, that this is where we should be looking?
Look, I'd probably agree with Ben that there's plenty of opportunity to be making more about exactly how many jobs are available in agriculture, and that it's not just the kind of traditional jobs that people think of, but it's really high-tech tech, high innovation, lots of really cutting-edge technology that people could be a part of as part of our agriculture industry. And as part of that, the government is really looking to support making sure people know about it. So the Job X is on in Port Augusta today to help people learn about the types of jobs that are available in this industry and others, as well as us supporting producers through things like the Northern Adelaide Food Park, the South Australian Food Innovation Centre, to make sure we are always really at that cutting edge, as well as our Advanced Manufacturing Grants program to really strengthen innovation, productivity, profitability and export competitiveness.
Ben, do you think we're moving quick enough to keep up with what's happening in the international market?
I think on the tech front, we're certainly very keen to take technology up. So I think our farmers in general do a really good job of that. I think there's certainly a challenge in Australia and many other places about that technology transfer. So there's lots of good research done, but it's making sure it gets to the coalface and can be taken up. So that's, I think, a challenge for this state still at the moment. There's other places in the world that have done that better. But I think hopefully we're moving more towards making sure that good research that's been done can actually be put to good use. And I think that's the case. I don't think that's the biggest challenge we face in ag, and I think what we're talking about today is the biggest challenge we face in ag at the moment, is letting people know what we do. During the course of my study, it was interesting, one of the facts I came up with and saw was that there's a study that done that in year 6 or 7 primary school, 75% of kids thought that cotton socks came from an animal, or actually there was another 20-something% that thought yogurt grew on trees. And that's a really, really big issue. And I think it's just getting that message out. One of my favourite quotes is from US Senator Tom Vilsack. He's an agricultural fellow, and he says, farming is freedom. And he says it's the freedom for 98% of the community to do all the other things they do and not have to worry about their food every day. And it's a really important point that a lot of people forget.
Okay, one final question for you, Ben, and for Brian, because you're at the coalface actually out there in the market. City kids, you're trying to convince them to take a job in the regions. Good luck, quite frankly. How do we overcome that?
I think that's why I think we really need to promote ourselves in the cities, not in the countries. I think we need to make sure that we have good role models, that we actually, as governments, that we highlight the importance of agriculture, because basically when an industry looks sexy, people get involved. And we've seen that in the wine industry at time to time and other related industries. So we need to make sure that we've got people there that they can say, hey, this is a successful thing, I can hang my hat on it, there's career development here. So I think we've got plenty of role models to do that with. We've just got to make sure that we get that communication.
What about you, Brian? I mean, trying to convince a uni graduate to go and, live in a regional centre such as Mount Gambier or Port Lincoln or whatever, be a pretty big ask these days.
It is, and we've thought a lot about it. We lost a lot of people to the mining boom. They could earn double what they could earn with us. So not 100,000 at Tuna, 200,000 in the Pilbara. And now they've come back. But we've thought long and hard about how we retain those people and attract new people, because the biggest problem that the tuna industry faces is generational change, both at the skipper level, the owner level and everywhere else. So we're thinking a lot about it. But for city kids, you've got to make it like an adventure. We're getting back to this. It's as raw as that. Come and swim with the tuna, come and dive with it. The trouble is that it used to be a very macho industry where people took risks and things like that, which we just can't take anymore. So we've got to delete from the adventure part, but you can still make it adventurous enough.
And as you said earlier, high tech is getting more and more involved. So, it is a market for a lot of university graduates, isn't it, within that area? Yeah. Alison, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having us.
What should we do to get involved in National Ag Day on the 21st?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of things you can do. PIRSA are hosting a range of regional events. There's a lunch tomorrow with local farmers at Yalumba's Rattenbully Vineyard. There's a barbecue and family feast at the Loxton Research Centre on Friday. The Minister for Agriculture, Food and Fisheries will be in Port Lincoln tomorrow for a seafood-themed I Choose SA Day. But really we'd like everyone to get involved in thanking farmers for what they contribute to the South Australia's economy and to the way we live our daily lives. And for that, we've got a hashtag #ThankAFarmerSA or #ThankAFisherSA, Brian, as well as hashtag Ag Day. So jump online and let us know how proud you are of South Australia's primary producers.
Fantastic. Good to see you all. And as I said, from a boy who grew up in the country on a farm, all power to you all. Good on you. Alison Lloyd-Wright from Purser, Brian Jeffries from the tuna industry, and Ben Hazlitt from the Riverland horticultural grower. All the best to you all. Cheers. And on behalf of everyone, thanks for helping the primary industry do so well.